Hello, and welcome to your weekly dose of wedding wellness. This is 52 Till I Do, the real talk wedding planning podcast where your wedding besties walk you through the process as if we were planning together for a year.
Each week, we'll break it all down so you can stay organized, inspired, and totally in love with the process.
Hey, I'm Laura. I'm the founder of Merriment, and I'm here with
Amethyst. I'm the director of operations here at Merriman.
So whether you're planning a backyard bash or a ballroom blowout, we've got the tips, timelines, and insider secrets to help you plan with confidence and celebrate with style.
Grab your partner, your notebook, and some champagne. Let's start the countdown to your big day.
Tanya, excellent wiggle. Could not have been a better wiggle.
I just realized you were wiggling. I'm like, oh, time to wiggle.
Yay. Well, you did wonderfully.
Why, thank you.
Yes. Welcome, listeners and viewers. If you are joining in today, obviously you have not only seen, but have now heard that we have a very, very special guest. This is one I am especially excited for. I feel like I say that a lot, but let this be amongst the top of the ranks. And I owe Amethyst an apology first and foremost as we get going here, because when I was introduced to Tanya, our guest today, I kind of blew up the order of the podcast as it previously existed because I knew for a fact that we needed to have her on the show. Our conversation was so insightful and interesting, and I feel like a really underserved area in the planning process that we just had to make it happen.
Laura, part of being in the wedding industry is demonstrating flexibility. So truly, you saying that you blew up the order of the podcast, whatever. We're being flexible. Tanya is such an asset, and just I'm so excited to hear from her today. And without further ado, Tanya, I would just love if you would introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers.
Awesome. Well, thank you. First of all, I am so thrilled to be on the podcast. You do a tremendous job of just educating couples all about the industry. Your podcast is fantastic. And so thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think we dream of the perfect wedding, right? But it takes so much to actually execute it. So you're making a difference. You're making a difference just to make it attainable, to make that dream come true through your podcast. So thank you so much for including me. And a little bit about me. So I am the founder of Preaisle, Commitment Conversations, and I coach engaged couples to build a rock solid foundation for their marriage. So to explain that, it's instead of going through the motions of premarital counseling, we do deep work. I want them to understand themselves. I want them to understand each other. And it leads to those more meaningful relationships and a better chance for a lifetime of love. And so I am pretty new to the industry. I am 6 months old, but I have coached and mentored. Yay! I have coached and mentored. Thank you. For years and years and years. I have been a teacher. I was in sales. I was in ministry. And there's just nothing better than sitting with a couple in love and having them learn more about each other. And I think you can always look back and see, oh, I was totally set up for this. I think you guys probably say that about your own career now. And that's how I feel about Preaisle. It's been developed through just years of learning, my experience, and now I'm doing the thing that I was created to do.
Yeah, Tanya, as you were describing your path the first time that we were chatting here too, I was just really overcome with the recognition that it's all these dots that have been connected through the years, all of these life experiences, all of these, very unique twists and turns that has led you here today. And I can't help but feel for you that you are doing exactly what you were meant to do. And so I think it's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And on that note, actually, so how we were introduced, longtime listeners will be 0% surprised when I say that Denise had introduced us. So Denise. We love Denise. So Tanya, you had reached out to Merriment, having, found us, seen some of our content along the way, hoping for just an introduction and conversation. And I'm so deeply grateful that you did that. You perhaps stepped outside of your comfort zone. Maybe you felt a little bit, however you may have felt in that context. But so grateful that you did, because as I've referenced our previous conversation too, after Denise had spoken with you, which is more just in terms of like a get to know you vendor relationship type context, she debriefed that meeting with me as like, I need to meet this woman. And I'll pull back the veil a little bit, no pun intended, and say that during like our little pre-chat here too, you're like one of the coolest people I think I
So
have
cool.
ever met.
Literally.
So
Very sweet. I surround myself with cool people, so here we are.
yeah. Would you mind telling our listeners at home maybe why we have that opinion of you particularly?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think maybe some music in general, especially Amethyst and what she's wearing right now. So
The fact that you recognized it just from Ice 9, I was blown away. I've never felt more connected to another human that instantly. I was like, done. You are so cool.
So, well, I think the same of you, and we're rockers for life. That's just the way it is.
Heck yeah. Well, Tanya, let's get into some questions here. So, our favorite merriment question right off the bat here, as this is a wedding planning podcast. Tanya, are you married? And if so, tell us a little bit about your love story, your wedding story.
Oh, I am married. I have been married for 31 years, and to my very best friend, Rick and I. Well, we were engaged in college, and so we started very young, and we graduated in May. We got married in June, so we were babies getting married.
Just little babies.
We were we were so young, but I loved planning our wedding, and I look back now. I have no idea how I did it. I was student teaching at the time, so much going on, but I loved all the details and just all the organization of it. So it has, even though it was 31 years ago, there's still things that make me excited about just weddings in general. And our wedding was beautiful, and the reception was an absolute bash. Since we had just graduated, we had a ton of friends there, and we both have huge families too, and they almost all came. It wasn't a destination wedding for us, but it was for everybody else. So we were living where we went to college, but everybody else had to travel, and they all did, and they all stayed. Hundreds of people. The wedding is still talked about today. When we're with friends, stories get brought up over and over again. So, but we've had our ups and our downs through all of that. We have one daughter who is just fantastic. Shout out to Mariah. I know she'll be listening. But we are each other's best friend. Rick and I, there's nobody else I would rather ever spend time with than him. And that's why I think now works for me in working with engaged couples, because you can get advice from your best friend who's been married for 5 years, and that's great. Like, talk to people who are married. But if you want that big picture, the forever kind of conversations, I think the longevity and the wisdom is a must. And really somebody who is passionate about engaged couples and passionate about just marriage in general. I love being married.
I think we share many of the same sentiments, by the way, surrounding our weddings, surrounding the joy of being married. I also frequently will tell people that I just love being married. So I know that this is going to be such a great and energizing conversation today. And you dipped your toe a bit into how you became a wedding coach. Would you mind giving us a little bit more information about what drew you to this role and how you've landed here?
Awesome. Yeah. My last career ended, I was trying to decide what to do next. What was next for me? What do I want to be when I grow up? Right.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to start my own business. And so I made a list of things that I loved doing, the things I didn't love doing. And on top of that list was helping people find out about themselves, like who they are. I love all the personality things, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, DISC personality, all the assessments. I love them all. And the teacher in me wants to help people to really be the best version of themselves. And I also thought, okay, what's out there that's needed? I want to fill that need. In my previous job, I worked at a church, and people would call in or they'd email us and ask, do you do premarital counseling? And we didn't. Not unless, if we were officiating the wedding, then maybe we'd sit with them for an hour, but nothing formal at all and nothing in depth by any means. And we would usually just refer them to a marriage counselor who can do a great job with that. But I realized that there was a need there. So I I really think that there's every person can benefit from whether it's coaching or therapy or counseling, and just realize this is something that's missing from the wedding planning process. And of course, we spend tons of time and tons of money planning for that one magical day, but I want to see couples who are also planning for that magical life together. And so I developed this curriculum, and it helps couples to learn about themselves first, but then how they can bring their genuine selves into their marriage. I just think that's so incredibly important.
Oh, could not agree more. And, here within merriment, oftentimes we speak about, it's not just about the destination, it's about enjoying the journey too. Well, you take it the next step, right? When we're talking about the
Right.
wedding day, you're talking about the rest of the journey of life. So you even have that far more forward facing view, which, again, unless it's in a required religious context, oftentimes people don't go this route. Now, Amethyst, I do have some insider information here. This
Yeah.
is something that you pursued.
I was just about to say, Tanya, everything you just said resonated so deeply with me. So, my husband and I did opt to actually start seeing a couples therapist before our wedding, probably like 3-4 months ahead of time. And really, for me, what was motivating here was I come from a divorced family in a multi-generational home, and I did not feel like I necessarily like had all the skills that I wanted in order to come into a marriage that would be successful and have that longevity. So I brought it to his attention, and he was so supportive and was like, "Yeah, let's do this. This sounds great." And the work was hard. The work was super hard. Truly. I mean, I'm just going to be candid. It's a real talk wedding
Yeah.
planning podcast, right? Especially like, right, my extra little background that I had to, you know, overcome, if you will. But it was so worth it to just like get to know each other, learn more about ourselves and like where we came from, how that would impact like our now family, and how we would end up working together to like just have that strong foundation. So you're speaking my language
So
today.
smart. Amethyst, I wish everybody had your story. That is just so smart of you.
I'm proud of the things that I've come from that have caused me to make the decisions that I have made. And I think specifically in our marriage and in our relationship, it's really, really beneficial.
So, Tanya, we've talked about this again from a religious context, a secular context. Tell us a little bit about the clients that you do typically cater to. Does it need to be one or the other, both and? Like, what do you typically see?
That's a great question. So I think premarital counseling has only been seen really mostly for couples who have to do it, right? If they have to do it if they're getting married in a church. And in the past it's been viewed more as a requirement than something that you get to do as a couple. And anytime we have to do something, I think that angsty teenager comes out in us and says,
Yes.
no, right? So
no.
no. And the latest data that I could find was from 2017. And it shows that at that time, 22% of couples are getting married in churches. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's even less today. So I don't think that that says anything about the commitment of the couple, if it's in a church or not. It's a venue choice. And so your question was, who do I cater to? So I think it's couples that understand that they don't know it all about each other. Mm-hmm. They're excited to know more about themselves, know more about each other, and they want that toolbox of things that they can use, whether it's the next day, the next year, or 30 years from now. And I do have my own strong faith, and I am so happy to bring that into the conversation if we align in our beliefs. But Preaisle is not about my beliefs. It's about the couple and how their spiritual world will impact their marriage. Nothing to do with me.
Just another interjection. Personally, we did opt to get married in a church. The church required premarital counseling. It was fun. It was a couple of like Saturday mornings and a little like packet situation. And of course, it was like tied to our wedding. So, of course, it was fun. But I certainly did not feel myself paying attention or like doing the work, right? That I like did otherwise when we opted to do it like as our decision rather than that angsty teenager of like, well, I just have to be here. So like, I'm going to go and drink the coffee and we can doodle together and it'll be cute. So I love it. And as Laura said at the beginning too, this truly is just such an underserved part of the wedding planning process. You shared that as well, Tanya. Why do you think this is so important? And are there parts of your service that really set you apart?
Oh, yeah, I
Sorry,
think
that
so
was a
too.
two-parter.
That's fine. It is underserviced. And when the idea came to mind, I started searching for others who were doing this, and there weren't many. And most of them are connected to a church or some type of a church organization, or they're marriage counselors who also accept engaged couples. So I think what sets me apart is my whole business is dedicated to engaged couples, and they engaged couples who don't want to become a divorce statistic. And when I'm coaching them, they learn about who they are, how their upbringing has influenced their views of marriage, and understanding what true relationships take. I want them all to thrive. And so they need to know so much more than just, so do you want to have kids? Like there's more to it than that. And I love being married. I'm crazy passionate about helping others stay that way for the 30 plus years that I've been at it too. So I think I bring that just a different passion into this than somebody else might.
Tanya, I know you say you cater to engaged couples, but can I just come? Can I come hang out with you
Can we just hang out?
sometime? Can you just help me understand myself a little bit too? That'd be great.
It is fun. I have said this would be good for anybody, any couples for sure. But I do love those bright-eyed in love. Let's learn something. But thanks. Yeah, that would be fun.
Well, Tanya, as a listener of the podcast, you know it's coming. Our listeners know it's coming. It is time to get tactical. We are going to go through some of those details where, realistically and reasonably, some of our listeners might be hearing about this for the very first time. It is not a largely talked about topic. And so I really want to be thoughtful in our time here. So, at the broadest strokes here, what does premarital counseling, premarital coaching typically look like? What's the process there?
Awesome. Well, of course, it's different all across the board. For me personally, we meet for 3 sessions. They're about 90 minutes long. I say about because it's mainly the couple that's talking. I give the guidance, but they're the ones doing the talking. And some are so ready to just talk and talk, talk, and others, we'll just say they're great listeners. They're great listeners for their partner and don't talk as much. So it's about 90 minutes. And we can meet if we're local. I would love to meet locally, or I can meet online. And that first session goes through their history as a couple. I help them even create their origin story. Having your origin story and repeating that for the rest of your life together is so important and so much fun. But then also the childhood messaging that they had. How did they feel about marriage when they were 5 years old? How did they feel about marriage when they were 10 years old? What were their views of marriage? What did marriage look like in their lives? And then the influence of family, the influence of friends in their marriage. And a large part of that first session is also about communication. Then we go into session 2. Session 2 is about conflict. I hope that never happens to anybody, but conflict happens. So we do a lot on conflict, and then also the 5 core desires, which is something that I created. The 5 core desires, it's a personality assessment, and I've developed this over probably the past 11 years, and it started as leadership lessons, but I've now reworked it into couples, and they really learn what it is they desire out of life and how they can bring their own desires into their marriage. And then session 3 is actually probably my favorite, and it's what we don't talk about. And what do we not talk about? Money, sex, and spirituality. And these 3 things, they need to be aligned for a couple to make it for the long haul. So I want to make sure that they understand that these aren't things to be ignored or just hope they work out, but they need to be super talked about. And most marriages, if you look at what marriages are going to break up over, it's over one of those 3 things. And if they can begin their marriage talking with ease about them, it's going to make a huge difference for their future.
Can I share a personal pro tip really quick?
Yes.
Okay, so your big three, the things that no one talks about. My husband and I actually host a family meeting every like January. So that way we can be aligned on all these things. And this year specifically, we're trying to save for a house. So we usually have like every 6 month family meeting to like check in on our goals, right? But we have our quarterly family meetings this year. And tonight is our quarterly family meeting. So we're going to dinner, we hang out, we talk about all the like, hot button topics, if you will. So specifically tonight's topic is money. And yeah, just making sure that we're staying aligned and like staying on the same goals and that we're both participating in all those things. That's my pro tip. Host family meetings after premarital counseling. Once you get down that aisle, family meetings, so golden. Have a snack, have cheese. You know what makes marriage better? Cheese. Thank you for letting me share my pro tip. I hope it related.
It's so smart. Amethyst, I am so impressed with what you're not just hoping that marriage works out. You're really doing the work. It's inspiring.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So enough about me. I just thought that was a really good tip. When should a couple start this process with you, or just start marriage coaching in general, especially in relation to that wedding date?
Right. Well, I've had people ask me, "Hey, we're thinking about getting engaged. Can we do this ahead of time?" And that's fine, sure. But I think once you're engaged, any time can be great, but there's this perfect time that I've I've called the stall, and I think it's because my husband does a lot of smoking and smoking meats, and there's the stall part.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes,
I was like, all right, yeah, okay.
All right, we're going.
I was like, where are we going?
Smoking meat, and so he has the time when his whatever pork is going to stall. So I started calling it the stall, and so let me explain. Once the engagement happens, tons of things start happening because it's exciting, right? The date is set, we find the venue. I'm sure that's when many people will seek your guidance and expertise, is right when that first engagement happens. And then there's that few months before when the showers are happening and there's all the final preparations, and it's just like craziness, and also need your assistance very much at that time. But then there's that time when no maybe huge things are happening. There's some little decisions maybe, and that's the stall. And it's during the stall, I think couples can come together and really feel like they're doing the work of planning for their marriage. And the venue's been reserved and the clothes are being altered and the decision-making part's done. And I love meeting with couples then because it feels like they're doing something still toward their big day.
Yeah, and Tanya, to put that in context for like how that would fall in like the merriment planning process.
Yeah.
And we've said it before, we'll say it again. Phase 1 is securing your venue and date. Phase 2, your trusted vendors. Phase 3, the finer details. So giving all those vendors the details that they need to really execute their day. Phase 4, that final month, as you're describing, lots going on. It must inevitably wait until that last month. So maybe this isn't something that we're tacking in necessarily right off the bat necessarily, or maybe it's not something that we're tacking on right at the end where there's a lot of moving parts. But in that phase 2, in that phase 3, and as the slotted here, in the sequence of our podcast, this is a fantastic time not only to be starting to think about these things, but starting to get those on the calendar too, because that time starts to evaporate. So because this spreads out over, a few to several weeks, go ahead and get that on the books so that you can really comfortably go through it, knowing that it's there, you're doing it, you've got the time set aside, and you can really give it the attention it deserves.
That's great. And it's also, you want this to be enjoyable, all of it. It's not something to try to get through, all of the preparation and the planning, and you want it to be something that is so much fun. And whether it's planning with you or planning with me, it's something to enjoy because that time's gone. You don't get it back again, and enjoy every moment.
Yeah, Tanya, I'm going just a little off script here. So
Mhm.
come with me for a moment. You talked about, right at the onset of an engagement or hey, we're thinking about getting engaged. Do you ever see this as like an engagement gift or something that is really truly right at the onset?
I do, and I think for some couples, the budget part of it gets a little tight. And so, if somebody has to choose between maybe their wedding cake or their flowers and me, they're going to choose their wedding cake and their flowers every time, right? And so, it's such a good gift. And I think moms and grandmas in particular love to give this as a gift for an engagement. If there's an engagement party, what a great gift to be able to give. And I think once you've been married for a little while, you understand how important it is to know each other and understand each other. And you might not be thinking that's something that's truly important uh, as you're trying to do all of the wedding planning, but definitely giving it as a gift is a great idea. Or you've got that, the cool rich aunt who just cannot wait to give you a gift. Hit her up. This is a great gift.
Well, Tanya, now that you've spoken on budget, you have truly seamlessly transitioned into my next question. On every episode, we discuss the budget implications of these certain elements and these certain types of vendors. Would you mind giving our listeners a little bit more insight and context around what they can expect budget wise with premarital coaching?
Right, right. So I love like the non-standard idea of I have a new goal. This is going to be a standard part of the planning process now. So, just like any part of the wedding, flowers, food, anything, you can spend about anything, right? And I think with pre-marriage coaching, I've seen the one-time 1 hour get-togethers that are $99, and then there's also large getaway packages where you can
Mhm.
travel, and those are thousands of dollars. So it really depends on how much time, how much money you want to spend. But I can speak to mine, and for 3 sessions, you're going to go anywhere between $400 and $500. But I will say that if you mention merriment or that you heard me on 52 Till I Do, I will take $50 off of that. So thank you for partnering with me for this, but probably between that $400 and $500. And I'll say that this isn't usually typically part of somebody's wedding budget, but talking to those moms and grandmas, they love to give it as an engagement gift. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, I'd love to do this, don't choose between me and your wedding cake. I get it. You're not going to want to do that. Asking for this as a gift would be something that many parents and grandparents would love to give.
Yeah, Tanya, the first time that you mentioned having this like on the planning list, I was taking a sip of my beverage for our viewers and I like splashed it all over my face in excitement. It's like, "No, we've added you to the list. You're officially
Yay!
on the list."
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, just continuing tactically here too. I know we spoke about what those 3 sessions look like and kind of the topics that you typically go over. Is the focus of your sessions about fixing problems or preparing for potential ones or both?
Fantastic question. Well, definitely preparing. I think it's better to prepare than repair. And hopefully the couple doesn't have too many problems yet. So,
Snaps.
yeah,
Snaps.
right. Honestly, if an engaged couple needs marriage counseling to fix things before they get married, to a huge extent, I might suggest they rethink their relationship. So there will be issues. Absolutely. Not one marriage has ever been perfectly lived out without conflict. But how we handle that conflict has more to do with how we were raised than who we are now. And so the couple, if you think you're not brought up by the same people, there is no way that you think the same, act the same, feel exactly the same way. So I want to help prepare them for those moments of the little spats or the hardcore fights, whatever that looks like. So the preparation is definitely important. We can't repair how we were brought up, but we can certainly prepare for what's to come.
Yeah, I think I want to get that tattooed on my body now too, Tanya. So if you're open to coming with me to a tattoo session, but
Let's go.
heck yeah. I mean that leads me to a curiosity that I have and based on what you've been saying, I feel like I can kind of fill in this blank, but I would love to hear it from you. What do you think that number one skill that every couple should have, that they should be working on prior to their marriage? What is that?
Number one, communication. It's whether you're wanting to share a great joy together or it's something painful, knowing how to talk to each other is so critical. It's for every other way to thrive. And there's a way to think about this too in communication, and I love to teach couples about this. We either respond to how we think about something or how we feel about something. So, as an example, if you were to go to your spouse and say, or your fiance, and say, how do you feel about getting a pet? Or what do you think about getting a pet? Same question, but depending on
Wild.
the way that
Yeah.
you're wired, you have a different response. And personally, I'm the feeler. How do you feel about getting a pet? I can talk all day long. If you say, what do you think about getting a pet? Well, I haven't thought about it. I don't know. My husband, completely the opposite. He needs to think. What do you think about going to my parents this weekend? Or how do you feel about going to my parents this weekend? And so just even understanding within your communication, if thinking or feeling is a better question, can be just a huge part of communicating together.
I'm sitting here playing that through my head right now. I'm like,
Blew my mind.
that's so insightful.
Blew my
How do
mind.
I talk to Sam? I'm going to use that later, by the way, in life. I'm
Yes.
sticking that in my back pocket. I'm going to test them both out.
You can do it. You do it during your family meeting.
Heck
Family
yeah.
meeting. Yes.
Making its debut.
Love it.
In terms of communication too, this is heavily reminding me of conflict, because during conflict, we need to communicate, we need to share, we need to figure it out, right? How, in your opinion, should couples approach conflict, especially during the stress of wedding planning?
Oh, yeah. Approaching conflict. So I would say, first of all, don't ignore it. Starting to ignore conflict now is just setting up for what your marriage is going to look like later. So I'm not saying having constant fights through it either, but definitely not ignoring it. So have you heard of on the floor? Is this a tool you've heard of before for conflict?
I have not.
I don't think
Yes.
so.
I love
Walk
teaching
me
new
through.
things. So super simple way to de-escalate any issue. And these are for small issues. So I have great tools that I teach for big issues, but on the floor is for the little things. So let me ask this question. So what is something that a couple might disagree about when they're wedding planning?
Oh, I've got a live example here. We had a little disagreement about the shape of the tables. That sounds wild. Let me provide more context.
Please.
The tables that were not going to cost extra were rounds with a linen. I did not have linens in my stylistic vision. I said, sweet husband, at the time fiance Samuel, I want farm tables. He said, great, let's get a quote. Quote came back. He said, wow, for tables? Can we not? So we had a little bit, it was not dramatic, but it definitely was a little bit of like conflict resolution, problem solving, compromise. What tables are we going to end up with? Spoiler alert, everybody, I did make a PowerPoint presentation about why I needed, crossed it off, deserved farm tables. We got the farm tables. It was great, but
Wow.
that's my example.
That is a fantastic example. So imagine this on the floor. You're having this discussion. One of the two of you says, on the floor. At that moment, now hopefully you're somewhere where this can happen. If you're in the middle of the store or something, that's not going to be great. But you actually get on the floor on your stomachs facing each other. So you're head to head. And you have this discussion together. Reasoning because you're looking really eyeball to eyeball. You're remembering who's in front of you. This isn't somebody that is an enemy. This is the person that you love. And so you can talk through this and all of those ways that maybe we escalate things like walking away or slamming a door or those things that conflict can make it even worse can't happen when you're both on the floor. Now, I will say if you have cats or dogs, it does make it a little more interesting, but it is a great way to understand each other. And so often you end up laughing by the end of it because you're there and you're you're just really seeing each other for, oh yeah, this, I love this person. This is great. So for those little things on the floor, and it's just and you have to both agree, yeah, it doesn't matter. We're on the floor at this moment. Or if you are out somewhere where you can't get on the floor, you can say, all right, on the floor when we get home, or on the floor when we get wherever, and just knowing that we're going to have this discussion, we're going to figure it out, but we don't have to make this huge thing. Not that
I'm obsessed.
I love that.
It's fun. Give it a try. It's definitely fun.
Want to try it. That is the problem. I'm like excited to try this. Hopefully not too soon, right? No conflict. Right. Maybe we'll just like each take up the different side of a debate and practice on the floor, because it sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, it would be fun. Try it when you're not actually in conflict. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Well, I think that brings such a playful approach to a serious time, right? And I'm imagining the body language that goes either misinterpreted or is unintentionally, put forth. Mm-hmm. And I just think that, it eliminates so much of that contributes to a conflict, to an argument, to a disagreement that otherwise you just don't even think about. It's not the words that you're saying at that point. It's the entire package. It's the whole picture. And if you take away some of those other pieces, it really gets you back down to like just you and your partner. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. Interesting side little question for that then too. Do you find, Tanya, that there are things that people come to you with and they think that they're aligned on it, and then over the course of conversation through coaching, they recognize that they're not?
Aligned. I would say probably money habits and priorities. So here we go, right back to family meeting. For example, a couple I worked with said they were both savers. We were talking about money. Oh yeah, we're both savers. But to have one person who's saving might mean like hoarding every penny. It's in a savings account. It's never to be touched. The other one is saving every penny for a vacation to Paris. Like those, they're both savers. Yes, they're right. But that priority is a little different. And so they think they're aligned, but not. And I think for sure it's money, because that's one of the greatest tensions if they aren't aligned. And most couples probably think that they are, or they'll just figure it out. That out. So yeah, that's probably the biggest one, that they think they're aligned, but not quite.
Now that we're still down the rabbit hole of like, we talked about conflict, we talked about, being unaligned, right? I'm going to have one more question and then we can kind of like pick it back up to the surface. So, do you believe in relationship red flags? I'm going to start there and then I'm going to continue. So, I don't know if that's a black and white answer for you, but do you believe in relationship red flags?
Well, sure. I mean, there's red flags for everything, right? And I will say, I was just recently having a conversation with a divorced friend of mine. And she said that if she would have had pre-marriage coaching, she doesn't think she would have actually gotten married. And wow. I hope that never happens to me. I mean, if I'm coaching a couple and that happens, I think I'd be heartbroken. But then again, it might be the best thing. And so those red flags can come up. But I think red flags come in all shades, right?
Sure.
So yeah. So I'm sure you've had couples that you've worked with and you're like, oh, they're totally going to make it. They're fantastic couples and you see that. But I do think that people need to look at their future spouse and think about not just the fun and the joy and all the great things, but the painful parts of marriage. Are they looking at this person thinking, I'm going to be able to go through this with them, whether it's moving or a job loss or the death of a parent or raising a teenager or horrible health diagnosis. Like these are things that you go through in marriage, and it's not always easy. It's not always joyful and fun. So the red flags are those tough things. And so if they're not flying now, what about then? Let's think in the future. And if you can see yourself growing closer together in the mess, that's great. And if you're thinking, I don't know if I can do that, that might be a red flag.
Rounding out the second part of my question, do you have any specific or like commonly seen red flags?
I'd say the conflict part. just not being able to deal with conflict together. And conflict itself, is a you might not even know what you'll have conflicts about. And so understanding where we're going to have conflicts, and just kind of a fun thing that I'll do with couples, I have a conflict gauge. And so there's 20 areas where conflict happens. And it could be like visiting family, or like how organized do we want our house, or decision making, and they rank themselves individually, and then they come together and see, okay, how far apart are we on these things, because the far apart ones, those are going to be those future conflicts for sure. And as an example, I'll give you a fun example. There was a couple I worked with that they had a huge aha moment when one of the couples, well, when they talked about music, and it was simple enough, it seemed like, but one said they wanted music on all the time, like in the house going, or have headphones on, always wanted music on. And the other said that they like it quiet, like nothing going on, and felt like when the other one had music on, it was a substitute for talking to each other. And so this was something that was already causing a little bit of tension, but there was this big aha when they realized that it wasn't really about the music so much. It was more about the quiet and the feeling of tuning the other one out. So those conflict times are definitely, I think those are some red flags that could just escalate if you don't figure out, all right, where are they coming from?
Well, Tanya, as you're talking to, I really am overcome just with a maybe a realization, maybe something. You probably have a very disproportionate good rate of the couples that you're working with, right? Those that have elected to go through this process, who want to discover each other more deeply, who want to grow with each other. And so you probably see disproportionately better outcomes, right?
Sure,
Because
sure.
they're people who want to grow together. And I think that's just incredibly beautiful.
You're absolutely right. This isn't, if you're being dragged to this, you're not going to get the same thing out of it as somebody who's like, no, we want to be here. We want to learn.
So, Tanya, the more that we talk about this, I just continue to be so deeply impressed. I just think that this is such an exciting way to explore these really tough topics with couples, and they're going through this engagement process. And I think many people's introduction to something similar may be things like love languages or other personality types that they explore during relationship work. What's your take on that, and how is that used in your practice?
Right. Oh, I think the love languages are a great tool. They can be super useful when trying to really show up for your partner and show them that you love him or her. And they were developed in the early 90s, and many people have used them to strengthen their relationships. But I do know that there are also people other than the author who've extended the five. And it is one relationship tool, and I think it's pretty useful. But we're all made up of different parts, right? I think it's crucial that we understand that all of these parts exist within us, and who we are in the world matters. And personally, I love any kind of personality assessment that I can find. Every single one has taught me something new about me. I'm
Oh, I'm
constantly
the
taking
same
notes.
way. I'm
I
the
love
same
them.
way.
So I created my own, and it's called the five core desires. And your core desire is not about how you relate to others as much as what drives you. It's what you feel your need is, or your desire in order to be the best version of you. And we have all five of these desires in us, but when you're working in your core desire, you feel confident, you feel excited, and you aren't struggling, you aren't too challenged. But if you're working out of your core desire, you're tired and you feel less confident and you struggle and you feel diminished. So it's important for us to understand what our core desire is and how to keep ourselves functioning in that desire. And as a couple, if we have different core desires, kind of like if we have different love languages, it can be eye opening to understand how the other one sees themselves in the world. And so I have an assessment that they take ahead of time. It's a homework assignment. And then we go through all five of these core desires to make sure they understand who they are and what they're bringing into their relationship, and truly what they desire, even if it's not said out loud, understanding this is my underlining desire, however I bring myself into the world.
Well, Tanya, I think that is super cool. For one, is it on
So
your
cool.
website? Can people find it? Or is it exclusively for couples that you work with?
Right now, I have it with the couples that I work with. I am in the process of really branding it to be on a larger scale. Right now, it's just for those couples who hang out with me or my good friends who might be on a podcast.
We're gonna say,
So
Tanya,
I wasn't going to go there, but I absolutely was. I was like, I'm so
please.
curious.
100% immediately. Amethyst and I would like to apply as a couple to your practice.
Done.
Yes.
Laura, consider this my official ask, my official popping of the question.
Thank you. 100% yes.
Yes.
We're in tears.
I would
Amazing.
love to share this with you.
Thank you. So, Tanya, unfortunately, we are in the wrap up zone of this episode of the podcast, and it's unfortunate. I don't like it. I want to keep talking to you for hours and hours and hours. As we close, we like to have some like little cute closing remarks, as Laura and I call it, some cute closing like thoughts, if you will. These are fun. These are upbeat. I'm so excited. Have you ever worked with a couple where you thought, wow, they are absolutely rock solid, and what made them that way?
Oh, I have. And they were both so engaged in our conversations. Absolutely the best. And a few times I just sat back and told them how impressed I was with how they communicated with each other. And they didn't seem to hold anything back, including emotions. Both of them were physically emotional and they encouraged each other. And I really feel like nothing was off limits. They just wanted to talk about everything. They wanted to know who they were, who the other person was. And I feel like if they keep that going, we're going to be celebrating their anniversaries for years and years and years to come.
That's
Wait,
so
what's the one
beautiful.
thing you always want to hear from your coach or your therapist? Like, wow, I'm impressed. I am still trying to
Exactly.
get there.
Exactly. You're my favorite. That's what you want to hear.
Yes.
Wow, you are so interesting and
Yes.
complex. Yeah. Maybe not that one. Maybe that one has a different undertone. But all right, Tanya, give us a date idea for quality connection.
Oh, fun. Can I give you a couple? I've got a couple.
Yes.
I
So
now
one,
insist. Yeah.
right? Okay. So one would be to cook together. Like do
Amazing.
the whole thing together. So you find the recipes together, you go shopping together, make the meal together, eat it obviously together, but the whole process of that. And this is going to sound super old school, but even if you can print out the recipes so you don't have any screens around, that's huge because as soon as you take a look at your phone at the recipe, somebody's going to text you and it's going to kill that moment. So really try to be just in the moment the two of you together. Another one would be to volunteer together. Go to an animal shelter, a food pantry, or a community cleanup of some kind, because I think there's nothing like values and action to make a couple feel super close. And even if you're not together during the action itself, there's going to be so much to talk about. You're going to feel super connected afterwards.
So, Tanya, what do you wish that every couple knew before they say I do?
Hmm. Probably marriage isn't about just a license or just a fancy party. It's that moment when you're saying, I'm leaving my old life that was all me focused, and I'm entering into this new life that's we focused. And you're going to have tough moments, tough years, but relationships that are built only on fun and happy times, they just don't work out. So the ones who anticipate pain or heartache, they learn to work through it are the ones that we can stamp but forever forever on that marriage when they truly are wanting to work together.
Yeah, absolutely lovely there. And is there a book or a resource out there that every engaged couple really should check out? Your own content aside, we'll get to that, but are there any other external resources that you think are really good?
I absolutely do. It's a resource. It's an app. It's called Paired, and it's a free app. But there's a paid premium version, but free app, and you get daily questions, and you separately write your answers on it. It's just right through the app, and then once you've both answered it, you get to see what the other one wrote. So there are funny questions, there's heartfelt questions. Some are totally surface level, some of them go really deep, but it warrants great discussions. And some of them are just fun, but getting to know each other, I feel like that's a lifelong journey. And this app is great for that.
We bought the premium subscription as a present to like ourselves after our engagement. And it was so much fun. I loved it.
So good
Such
to
a good
know.
app.
Yeah, yeah.
And Tanya, our final closing question that we like to ask all of our frienders, which is a term that we heard for the first time last night. If you could coach a dream couple, who would they be and why?
Ooh, general or specific?
Truly, this can be any way you interpret it.
Well, I would think generally it would be a couple that's open to each other, genuinely wanting to learn more about themselves and their partner. But specifically, how fun would it be to coach Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco right now? Like they
Did you hear that podcast?
So genuinely in love. Like they're so open to learn more about each other. I feel like that it would be just the best to be able to coach them.
Okay, Tanya, as Amethyst said, we could continue this conversation for hours. And in fact, I hope that we can find future opportunity to not only individually keep this conversation going, but we would love to have you back on some future juncture too. This was a ton of fun. Maybe for some of our Patreon listeners, Patreon coming up. And so maybe we could dig into some of those tools a little bit more or other information that you'd like to share. But Tanya, as we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you?
Oh, all the socials. So YouTube and TikTok, it's Tanya Koss. Instagram and Facebook, it's Preaisle, and which is Preaisle. It's a made-up word, but it's my word, and I love it. And then also my website at preaisle.com.
And as always, I will make sure to link all of that in the description below so you can go ahead and get connected with Tanya. Hey, speaking of the description, there's that cute little button that I love.
Oh, she
right
cute.
She's the cutest button. Go ahead and click on that button. Send us your questions. Send us your stories. Send us your red flag, green flag so we can continue that game on the pod. Really been loving that. And as always, give us a follow on the socials and check out merriment.com. We've got a great companion blog going along with all of our episodes.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us here on this special episode of 52 Till I Do. Please join us weekly as we shell out that expert wedding guidance focused on style and substance. We are signing out for now, your wedding besties.
Helping you stay organized, inspired, and totally in love with the process.
Tanya, join us. Okay,
Love
love
you.
you.
Bye.